My name's Paul Moore, 45, a construction worker who's seen better days, a divorce, a business collapse, and a life that somehow drifted off course. But fate threw me a curveball at a marina auction last spring. An abandoned 62-foot yacht named the Meridian was up for sale for less than the price of a pickup truck. I bought it thinking I'd fix it up live aboard part-time and finally fulfill a promise to my late father to scatter his ashes at sea. The next morning, toolbox in hand and heart, full of hope, I returned to the dock. But as I stepped onto the deck, I froze. Smoke rose from the chimney, the smell of coffee filled the air, and laughter echoed from below deck. I walked down the steps, then stopped cold. A blonde woman in her 50s wearing a floral robe and holding a coffee mug stared me down with pure entitlement. "Who are you?" she demanded. "I'm the new owner of this yacht," I said. She smirked. "That's funny, because this is my home. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment with your city and local time, and if you love HOA-style drama and revenge stories, make sure to subscribe. Trust me, you won't believe how this one ends." The woman's name was Karen Clark, a name I'd come to hear far too often in the weeks that followed. Within minutes of stepping on my own yacht, I was surrounded. Her husband, Tom Clark, lumbered out from below deck, holding a half-eaten sandwich and glaring like I'd just broken into his home. Two kids peeked from the cabin doorway, a teenage boy, Dylan, and his younger sister, Emily. Karen crossed her arms and said it like a punchline, "We're not leaving. This yacht is under HOA jurisdiction, and as president, I'm the one who decides who stays. HOA. That three-letter curse word I thought only applied to suburban lawns and fences. Apparently this marina had one too. The Harborview Marina Homeowners Association, led by none other than Madam President Karen Clark. I tried to stay calm. "Ma'am, I bought this yacht legally at auction. Here's the title and bill of sale." She didn't even look at it. "Oh, paperwork. Cute. The thing is, Mr. Moore, the HOA already declared this vessel abandoned years ago. It's part of our community dock. You're trespassing on community property." I stared at her, half in disbelief, half in fury. "Lady," I said slowly, "I bought it. I have the state registration right here." Karen smiled, that smug little smirk every HOA tyrant seems born with. "You'll need to clear that with the dock committee. In the meantime, please leave the premises. You're making my family uncomfortable." Tom grunted, stepping closer. "You heard my wife." I could feel my blood pressure climbing. "I'm not going anywhere," Karen shrugged. "Fine. I'll have Marina Security handle it." 10 minutes later, two men in reflective vests arrived. Not police, just rent-a-cops hired by the HOA. They asked me to de-escalate and comply with HOA rules. One even told me, "Sir, you can't occupy this vessel while the ownership dispute is pending." "Pending," I snapped. "I just bought it yesterday." They didn't care. Their orders came from Karen Clark, and around here Karen might as well have been the law. I left that day shaking with rage. I slept in my truck at the far end of the marina, staring at the Meridian glowing under the dock lights, my yacht now occupied by strangers sipping wine on the deck I paid for. The next morning, I found a bright orange sticker slapped across the hull, "Notice of violation, unsafe vessel pending HOA demolition hearing." I ripped it off. By noon, 3 more appeared. When I confronted the dock manager, Greg Parker, he sighed like a man too tired to fight. "Look, Paul," he said quietly, "Karen runs everything around here. The HOA board, the maintenance budget, the dock leases, even the cameras. You make her mad, and things get difficult." "Difficult," I repeated. "She's squatting on my yacht," Greg leaned in. "You didn't hear it from me, but her husband used to work in code enforcement. He still has friends at the county office. They can make your life hell." I felt a knot in my stomach. This wasn't just a squatter problem, it was a political empire on water. By that afternoon, Karen had taken things up a notch. A public safety notice appeared on the HOA bulletin board, complete with my photo calling me a trespasser under investigation for illegal property acquisition. Then came the Facebook post. "Nidum, Uargent, OA, Notice Audia. We have a situation involving a predatory property flipper attempting to evict a family from their home on the marina. Please remain calm and report any suspicious behavior from this individual. Number, protect our community." The post went viral, at least locally. Within hours, people were commenting, "Shame on you, Paul Moore. You're kicking out a family, you monster. Another greedy developer destroying our town." I hadn't even had a chance to start repairs, and already I was the villain of Harborview. A few days later, a sheriff's deputy showed up. Deputy Miller, one of Karen's friends. He handed me a warning. "Mr. Moore, I've been advised that until the HOA's claim is resolved, you're not allowed on that vessel." What claim? I demanded. They're not owners. Technically, he said, adjusting his sunglasses, they've filed a temporary occupancy affidavit. HOA board backed it. An affidavit? I almost laughed. On what basis? He shrugged. You'll have to take that up with the county clerk. I'm just enforcing. Karen stood at the end of the dock, arms folded, watching me with a smirk so wide I could have thrown her overboard just to see if she'd float. Better luck next time, Mr. Moore, she called out. Oh, and don't forget, HOA fines accumulate daily. By the end of that week, I'd received 5 violation letters, totaling nearly $3, 200 inches, HOA, non-compliance penalties. For what you ask, unauthorized presence on private property, disturbing community peace, unlicensed renovation attempt, use of profanity on dock, and my favorite, aggressive posture toward HOA board member. Each one printed on expensive HOA letterhead, signed personally by Karen Clark, president. It was absurd. It was infuriating. And yet legally, I couldn't touch the yacht without risking arrest for trespassing. So I started watching, recording, documenting. From my truck, I filmed Karen hosting dinner parties on the Meridian, inviting her HOA friends, the Parkers, the Millers, the Whitakers, the Johnsons, the Lopezes, all sipping champagne on my deck like it was their country club. I captured her son Dylan fishing off the stern, her husband washing the hull with my supplies, her daughter playing on the bow with fairy lights. My yacht had become the HOA's floating vacation home. The following Monday, I tried appealing to the county office. The clerk, a kind woman named Janet, looked up my case and frowned. Mr. Moore, it says here the HOA filed a complaint claiming the vessel is under community control. Community control, I repeated. It's a privately owned boat, I know, she said. But they submitted documents citing the Harbor Maintenance Act. It gives the HOA temporary oversight if the vessel is deemed abandoned. Abandoned, I nearly shouted. I bought it last week, Janet sighed. They backdated the claim. That was the breaking point. I sat in my truck that night staring at the glowing marina, every laugh and clink of wine glasses from my yacht stabbing me in the gut. I thought about calling the police again. I thought about cutting the ropes and sailing the yacht out to sea myself. But I knew that's what they wanted, for me to lose my temper, to make a mistake they could weaponize. So I did the one thing Karen Clark didn't expect. I played the long game. The next morning, I walked calmly into the HOA office, a small trailer near the dock with a gold plaque that read Harborview Marina HOA, President Karen Clark. She looked up from her desk, startled to see me. Mr. Moore, she said with a fake smile, I hope you're not here to cause more trouble. Actually, I replied, I'm here to request a copy of all HOA bylaws and meeting minutes regarding dock management for the past 5 years. Her smile faltered. Why? Because I'm filing an appeal, and because I think you're lying. For a second, the mask cracked. Her eyes narrowed just slightly. Then she laughed, that brittle, condescending laugh that tells you someone thinks they're untouchable. You can try, she said, but you'll find this community is tight-knit. Oh, I'm counting on it, I said. I turned to leave, pausing at the door. By the way, Karen, nice listing on Airbnb, $450 a night. Not bad for a stolen yacht. She froze. The smile vanished. That was the moment I knew the tides were about to turn. That night I couldn't sleep. The sound of waves against the dock, usually something peaceful, now felt like mockery. My yacht sitting 100 feet away, full of strangers, clinking glasses, and laughing at my expense. Karen Clark had turned my life into a circus, and somehow I was the clown everyone threw stones at. But if there's one thing years of construction work teach you, it's patience. You don't knock down a rotten wall in one swing. You find the weak points and then you push until the whole thing collapses. So I started looking for cracks. First, I spent hours combing through every HOA rule I could find. The bylaws, public minutes, dock management contracts, everything. It didn't take long to notice the first hole. The Harborview Marina HOA lease for water rights had expired 6 months ago. They'd never renewed it with the state. Meaning, in legal terms, the HOA had no actual authority over the marina waters. They could regulate the parking lot and picnic tables, but the docks, the slips, the moorings, that was state property. Bingo. I emailed the Department of Coastal Management to confirm it. 2 days later, I got a polite reply. As of current records, the Harborview HOA does not hold jurisdiction over navigable waters. Any claims of control beyond the shoreline are unenforceable. I printed that email 10 times. Next, I went after Karen's family directly. I wasn't stupid enough to confront them in person again, but I had Miguel Alvarez, my friend, and the only person who believed me, help dig around online. Miguel was a genius with social media. Within hours, he'd found Karen's Airbnb listing, using a fake name, of course, Luxury Marina Living. hosted by KC, photos of the Meridian, my yacht, my woodwork, my deck chairs. Underneath, enjoy peaceful sunsets aboard our privately managed community yacht. All proceeds support Harborview HOA. It had over 30 reviews. Guests praised Karen's hospitality, great location, and clean, modern interiors. One review even said, "We met the HOA president. What a lovely woman," Miguel whistled. "She's running a full-blown business on your boat, man." "She's committing fraud," I corrected, jaw tight. "And she's using the HOA to cover it." I needed more proof. So I bought a small camera, one of those pen-sized dash cams contractors use, and hid it near the dock's maintenance post aimed straight at the Meridian. For a week, I recorded everything. Footage of Karen greeting new guests with fake smiles and HOA brochures, Todd helping load suitcases aboard, Dylan guiding guests to their cabins. They'd even installed a sign, "Private Charter, HOA staff only." By the fourth night, I caught something even better: Karen collecting cash payments from guests at the dock. Not through Airbnb, but in envelopes. I compiled everything: photos, videos, screenshots, legal documents, the email from Coastal Management. Then I walked back into the HOA office, same trailer, same smug face behind the desk. "Mr. Moore," Karen said sweetly, "didn't I make it clear you're not allowed on community property without authorization?" "Good thing this isn't community property," I said, dropping a folder on her desk. "Your HOA lease on the water expired. You've been running a scam." She didn't even flinch. "Allegations like that could be considered harassment." I smiled. "Then call the cops. I'll show them your Airbnb page." For a moment, her jaw twitched. Then, with that fake HOA confidence, she slid the folder back toward me. "Paul," she said, lowering her voice, "let me give you some advice. People who make trouble for this community don't stay long. They move. Or they disappear quietly." It wasn't a threat shouted, it was one whispered like a queen, telling a peasant she didn't need to raise her voice to destroy him. I left without another word, but as I stepped out, I made sure she saw the small red light blinking from my phone, recording the entire exchange. Later that night, Miguel came by my truck with 2 coffees and a look that said, "I found something big." "You're gonna love this," he said, pulling up a PDF on his tablet. County records show that the previous yacht owner, Harold Brennan, listed a caregiver on his estate paperwork. "Let me guess," I said. Miguel nodded. "Karen Clark." I blinked. "Wait, how's that possible? She worked part-time as a caretaker for seniors through a nonprofit. Brennan died under hospice care 2 years ago. His insurance beneficiary got changed 3 months before he passed." "Guess who was listed, Karen?" I said quietly. Karen, Miguel confirmed. "And the policy was $40,000. I leaned back, stunned. "You're telling me she got paid off his death?" "Yep. And that yacht, according to an old marina report, Harold never actually abandoned it. The HOA declared it derelict after he died. Then Karen lobbied to have it transferred to HOA management. So she built this scam years ago," I muttered, "and she's been squatting on my purchase ever since." Miguel smirked. "You picked the wrong yacht, my friend, or maybe the right one." That's when I decided to escalate. I called attorney Rosemary Rhee, a maritime property lawyer Miguel recommended. Rosemary was direct, sharp, and not easily intimidated. "You've got a classic case of HOA overreach and occupancy fraud," she said after reading my notes. "But if what you're saying about the expired lease is true, we can dismantle them in court." "I don't want court," I told her. "I want my yacht back. Then we'll hit them where it hurts first: reputation and legality." She helped me draft a cease and desist letter addressed to the HOA board, citing state maritime law and unlawful commercial use of private property. I hand-delivered it to Karen's office the next morning. The moment she saw my lawyer's name in the header, her smile cracked for the first time. "This means war, Paul," she said softly. "Good," I replied. "I've been waiting for one." That same week, something unexpected happened. An email arrived from Greg Parker, the dock manager. "Paul, off the record, check the east maintenance locker near slip 14. It's connected to your yacht's old power line. You might find something useful." I waited until nightfall. Flashlight in hand, Miguel keeping lookout, I pried open the rusty locker. Inside was an old metal box labeled Brennan Personal Effects. Inside were yellowed papers, Harold Brennan's original maintenance logs, medical receipts, and handwritten notes. One caught my eye. Karen promised she'd look after the Meridian if I went into hospice. Don't let her sell it. Tucked beneath was a photocopy of a change of beneficiary form naming Karen Clark as the recipient of Harold's life insurance, dated 3 weeks before his death. I didn't need to be a lawyer to know what that meant. Miguel exhaled. "That's elder abuse and insurance fraud rolled into one." Rosemary agreed. If this checks out, she's not just a bully, she's a criminal. And she's been laundering HOA money through those maintenance fees. We turned everything over to the Coast Guard Investigative Service and the State Attorney General's office. By the next morning, the HOA's tone had changed. The usual violation letters stopped. The Facebook posts vanished. Karen went quiet, too quiet. That silence scared me more than the threats ever did. Because I knew Karen Clark wasn't the type to retreat. She was the type to rebuild her walls higher. Sure enough, 2 days later, I woke up to the sound of banging metal. I ran to the dock and saw Karen's husband Todd removing the mooring ropes from the Meridian. When I shouted, he grinned. "We're moving it, buddy. HOA ordered a relocation for safety reasons. Touch that yacht and I'll have you arrested," he shrugged. "Then you better call fast." Behind him, Karen stood with folded arms, her phone camera pointed at me. "Smile, Paul," she said sweetly. "Wouldn't want the HOA board to think you're violent again." I froze, forcing myself to breathe. I wasn't giving her the satisfaction of another incident. Instead, I just smiled back and said quietly, "You've made a mistake, Karen. You picked the wrong man to steal from." And as she turned away, I whispered to myself, "You can hide behind your HOA all you want, but the tide's already changing." By the time dawn broke the next morning, I knew there was no turning back. Karen Clark had crossed from harassment into something bigger, fraud, theft, maybe even conspiracy. And if I was going to win this, I couldn't fight like a homeowner arguing about fence height. I had to fight like a man taking back what was stolen from him. The first thing I did was call attorney Rosemary Rhee again. She picked up on the second ring. "Morning, Paul," she said, already sounding like she'd been up reading case law. "Let me guess, Karen's making moves. She's trying to relocate the yacht," I told her. "Last night her husband was untying it. Said the HOA ordered a safety relocation." "Of course they did," she sighed. "You know what that means, right? They're trying to destroy evidence, maybe even hide the boat so we can't serve the warrant once the state approves it." That made my stomach drop. Can they do that legally? No. But Karen doesn't play legal, she plays loud. Rosemary wasted no time. Within 24 hours, she filed a restraining injunction, preventing the HOA from tampering, moving, or materially altering any property under state title dispute, specifically the Meridian. The judge approved it the same day. Miguel and I printed 3 copies and taped them right on the hull. When Karen saw the paper, she nearly choked on her latte. "You think a piece of paper stops me," she sneered. "No," I said calmly, "but the Coast Guard will." For the first time, she looked rattled. Not scared, just off balance. The kind of look someone gives when they realize their favorite game suddenly got new rules. Meanwhile, the investigation Rosemary had triggered began unfolding fast. The Coast Guard Investigative Service, CGIS, contacted me directly. A special agent named Daniel Martinez called one afternoon. "Mr. Moore," he said, "we've been reviewing your documentation. This isn't the first complaint involving Mrs. Clark or the Harborview HOA. It's not, no, sir. We have 3 previous reports, one for financial irregularities, one for obstruction during an inspection, and one from a family who accused the HOA of illegally seizing their dock slip." I blinked. "So she's done this before." "Looks that way. And based on what you sent, the expired water lease, the rental business, the insurance documents, she's in a lot deeper trouble than she realizes." "Good," I said, "because I'm tired of playing defense." For weeks, Miguel and I collected more evidence, every receipt, every photo, every conversation. We set up motion-activated cameras on the dock and caught footage of HOA members sneaking aboard the yacht at night, removing boxes, papers, and electronics. One clip showed Tom Clark hauling out a black duffel bag and handing it to Gavin Miller, the HOA treasurer. Another showed Karen whispering with Patricia Parker, the HOA secretary, outside her SUV. They were panicking. Rosemary grinned when she saw the footage. "Congratulations," she said. "You've just captured a conspiracy to conceal evidence." She forwarded everything to Agent Martinez, who was building a criminal case piece by piece. But while the investigation grew stronger, life for me got worse. My business phone started ringing nonstop fake inquiries, prank calls, negative reviews on Yelp. Someone had left 1-star ratings under my construction company's name with comments like "scammer harassed a local family" and threatened HOA officials. It didn't take a genius to guess who was behind it. Karen had launched a smear campaign. Then came the letters, dozens of them, all marked HOA violation notice. Each one more ridiculous than the last: loitering in community area, unauthorized recording of residents, improper use of marina lighting, verbal harassment through tone of voice. I could have laughed if it didn't sting so much. She wasn't just trying to win, she was trying to break me. Miguel saw it too. One night he showed up with a six-pack and said, "You know, if you wanted to move this yacht to international waters and start fresh, I'd help." I grinned. Tempting. But I think I'd rather watch Karen sink herself. A few days later, we got our chance. Agent Martinez called, his voice sharp with energy. "Paul, we've confirmed something. Harold Brennan's estate wasn't handled properly. The insurance beneficiary change was forged. We ran handwriting analysis. Brennan's signature was traced. Guess who signed the witness line? Karen Clark. Bingo. She committed insurance fraud, possibly elder financial abuse. And since she used HOA resources to cover her tracks, the whole board's implicated." I nearly dropped the phone. "You're saying the HOA's going down too? Let's just say if this goes to trial, it won't be a small-town drama anymore. It'll be federal." That night, Miguel and I celebrated with cheap pizza on the dock, sitting across from the Meridian, while Karen and her family hid behind drawn curtains. For the first time, I saw fear in their silence. No music, no laughter, no guests, just stillness. "They know," Miguel said. "Yeah," I replied. "They're waiting for the next move." And that move came sooner than anyone expected. 3 days later, a white envelope slid under my truck's wiper. No name, no return address. Just one line typed on a piece of paper inside: "Stop digging, or the next thing you lose won't be a boat." Miguel wanted to call the police immediately. Rosemary agreed, but I refused. You can't scare a man who's already lost everything, I told them. Instead, I doubled down. Rosemary arranged for an official meeting between the HOA board and a state land officer to review maritime compliance. It was supposed to be routine, but in reality, it was a setup. The officer, Agent Martinez, and 2 Coast Guard investigators would attend undercover posing as state auditors. I'd be there too, with copies of every file ready to drop the truth in front of the entire HOA. When the day came, the marina's conference hall was packed. All the familiar faces were there: the Millers, the Parkers, the Whitakers, the Johnsons, and of course Karen Clark sitting at the head of the table, smug as ever in her red blazer. "Let's begin," she said. "Mr. Moore, this meeting is about your ongoing non-compliance and harassment of this community." I didn't say a word. I just opened my binder and slid a document across the table. "What's this?" she asked. "Your HOA's expired lease. Signed by you. Dated 2 years ago. Never renewed." She blinked. "That's irrelevant." "Really?" I said, handing her another paper. "Then maybe these photos are irrelevant too. You renting the Meridian on Airbnb, collecting cash, using HOA funds for boat maintenance that never happened." Gasps filled the room. The Millers whispered to each other. Karen's face flushed. "This is defamation. You can't just—" I interrupted, my voice steady. "Actually, I can, because I have proof Harold Brennan didn't sign over that insurance policy to you. You forged it." The room went silent. She opened her mouth, but before she could speak, Agent Martinez stood up from the back row, flashing his badge. "Karen Clark, please remain seated." The entire room froze. Martinez stepped forward. "We have a federal investigation underway into fraud, forgery, and embezzlement within this HOA. You're advised not to leave the premises." Karen's face turned white. Her husband bolted for the door. 2 agents stopped him. I sat there watching, my heart pounding, as the queen of the marina finally realized her kingdom was crumbling. The meeting was shut down. Agents spent the rest of the afternoon seizing laptops, files, and bank ledgers. When Karen was finally escorted out in handcuffs, she turned to me and hissed, "You think you've won, Paul? You have no idea who you're dealing with." I just smiled. "Yeah, Karen. That's the problem. You thought I was someone who'd back down." That night, the Meridian sat empty for the first time in months. No lights, no laughter, just quiet. I walked up the dock and placed my hand on her hull. "Welcome home," I whispered. But deep down I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. Because people like Karen Clark don't drown quietly. They drag everyone down with them. And I had the feeling she wasn't done fighting. For the first time in months, the Meridian was silent. The water lapped gently against her hull, the same rhythm that had once soothed me when life went sideways. Only now every creak of wood, every faint splash felt like a reminder that the storm wasn't over. Karen Clark might have been in custody for questioning, but people like her didn't crumble that easily. Miguel said it best as we stood on the dock that night, coffee cups in hand. "She's too arrogant to give up," he muttered. "Karen's the kind of woman who'd try to run the prison if you locked her in one." He wasn't wrong. The next morning when I arrived at the marina, I found something waiting for me, a lawsuit notice. Filed overnight by the HOA's acting president, none other than Patricia Parker. The charge: defamation, property interference, and emotional distress to the HOA community. I laughed so hard, I nearly dropped the paper. "They're suing me." For exposing their crimes, Rosemary wasn't laughing. It's not about winning, Paul. It's about exhausting you. This is how HOA bullies fight. They drown you in paperwork. She was right. For every move we made, they'd fire back with 10. I received more letters in a week than I had in my entire life. HOA fines, civil summons, community conduct, complaints, even a formal ban from attending marina events. It was chaos, but it was also desperation. The board was scrambling to cover up years of corruption. And the deeper I dug, the uglier it got. Agent Martinez reached out again, this time with urgency in his voice. Paul, we've finished reviewing the digital evidence from the Meridian's onboard computer. There are transaction records going back 5 years, unreported income from rentals, cash transfers, between Karen Clark, HOA treasurer Gavin Miller, and 2 offshore accounts. Offshore, I repeated? Yes. One in the Cayman Islands, one in Belize, both tied to a shell company called Harbor Living Group, LLC. And guess who signed the incorporation documents? Karen Clark. Exactly. We're looking at organized financial fraud. But there's something worse. The insurance file on Harold Brennan. He paused before continuing. Karen didn't just change the beneficiary form. She also altered his medical consent paperwork while she was working as his caregiver. She listed herself as his medical proxy even though she wasn't family. That's illegal, right? Very. And it gets worse. Brennan's attending nurse from the hospice facility died in a car accident 2 weeks after he did. I froze. You think Karen had something to do with it? Martinez sighed. We can't say that yet. But we've opened an elder abuse and possible homicide inquiry. She's connected to at least 2 other suspicious deaths across state lines, both former clients. I felt the blood drain from my face. This wasn't just an HOA war anymore. This was something darker, something rotten beneath the surface. That night, Miguel and I met Rosemary at her office. The walls were covered with printouts, photos, financial charts, emails, and legal documents, all pinned together with red thread. It looked like something out of a crime movie. We've got patterns, Rosemary said, tapping on the board. Karen Clark wasn't just abusing her HOA position, she was using it as a shield. She targeted isolated residents, elderly property owners, and small investors. Anyone who wouldn't fight back. She used HOA authority to get access, Miguel added. Once she had control, she'd move in temporarily and then make it permanent. Rosemary nodded. And the Meridian wasn't her first. She did the same thing to a retired Navy mechanic in Florida, claimed she was caretaking his property, then sold it under the HOA's name. That man died of what was ruled a heart attack. 2 weeks before she collected on his estate, I leaned against the wall shaking my head. So she's been running this scam for years, right under everyone's nose. And she almost got away with it, Rosemary said softly. If you hadn't bought that yacht, she would have kept doing it. For a moment, the room went quiet. Then Miguel spoke. So what now? Rosemary turned toward me. Now we make sure she never gets another chance. 2 days later, Karen posted bail. She returned to the marina like nothing had happened, hair done, sunglasses on, smile plastic but unbroken. The HOA families, the Millers, Parkers, and Whitakers, greeted her with cautious applause, pretending not to notice the 2 federal agents parked nearby. Karen walked right up to me, heels clicking on the dock, and said sweetly, "Back to normal, Paul. The HOA reinstated me as president." Democracy wins, doesn't it? Sure, I said, if you ignore the part where democracy's under FBI surveillance. She smirked. Oh, honey, the FBI doesn't scare me. I've had dinner with half the county council. I wanted to throw her off the dock, but instead I just smiled. Enjoy your freedom while it lasts. I plan to, she said, and turned away. But her eyes, those sharp, calculating eyes, lingered on the Meridian as she walked past like a predator circling prey she wasn't done with. That night, someone cut the power to my truck. Then my dock camera feed went black. When I checked the footage the next morning, the last thing I saw before the signal died was a figure-tall male wearing a hoodie, slipping something into my mailbox. Inside, I found a small plastic bag with a single bullet and a note. Sail away while you still can. Rosemary called the police immediately, but I wasn't scared, I was furious. Karen had gone too far. Let her make noise, I told Miguel. The louder she gets, the faster she sinks. Within a week, our federal allies had everything they needed. Agent Martinez called again. The states approved a full joint operation, Coast Guard, IRS, and the Attorney General's office. We're moving in soon, but we'll need your help to make it public. Public, how Karen's hosting a community event this weekend, the Marina Renewal Gala. She's using it to clear her name and announce a new HOA project. That's when we'll serve the warrants. But it'll be more effective if she incriminates herself on record. You want me to bait her? Exactly. Just keep her talking long enough for us to act. I hesitated, then nodded. I'll do it. Saturday came fast. The docks were strung with lights, tables covered in white cloths, cameras rolling for the local news. Karen stood at the podium in her signature red blazer waving like a celebrity. Neighbors, she began, I know there have been rumors and lies spread about me, but let's remember this, Marina is about community, and no outsider will ever take that from us. I stepped forward from the crowd, microphone in hand. Then why'd you steal from it? A hush fell. Karen froze mid-sentence. Excuse me, I held up a folder, the original copy of Harold Brennan's insurance form. Because of you, an old man lost everything, and when he died, you made sure you got paid for it. Her voice cracked just slightly. You have no proof. Oh, I think we do, I said, turning to the cameras. Because right now as we speak, federal agents are seizing your HOA's bank accounts. The color drained from her face. She tried to step back, but it was too late. Sirens wailed in the distance. Agent Martinez emerged from the crowd with 2 officers flashing his badge. Karen Clark, you are under arrest for fraud, forgery, embezzlement, elder financial abuse, and obstruction of justice. The crowd gasped. Karen stumbled backward, grabbing the podium for balance. You can't do this. This is my marina. Martinez looked her dead in the eye. Not anymore. As they cuffed her, she screamed a shrill, venomous sound that echoed across the dock. You'll regret this more. I'll make you regret this. But for the first time, her threats didn't scare me, because this time she was screaming from below deck. That night, the Meridian glowed softly under the dock lights once again, but this time the laughter on board was mine. Miguel clinked a beer bottle against mine and said, So, you gonna rename her now? I smiled. Already did. The gold letters gleamed on the hull, Liberty Tide. Freedom had never looked better. Karen Clark's arrest should have ended everything. The news blew up overnight. HOA president charged in $2.4 million fraud scheme. The town's gossip groups couldn't talk about anything else. For the first time since this nightmare began, I thought I could finally breathe again. But if there's one thing I learned about people like Karen, it's that they don't go down quietly. They drag everyone they can with them, and they always have one last trick. And sure enough, she did. A week after the arrest, Rosemary called me into her office. Her expression was sharp, but her tone carried that familiar edge of worry. Paul, she said, Karen's attorney just filed a motion claiming her arrest was procedurally invalid because the HOA charter is a private association, not a government entity. She's arguing that the evidence seized was outside federal jurisdiction. I blinked. She's actually trying to get out on a technicality. Oh, she's not just trying, she's got money backing her. The HOA's insurance policy is paying her legal fees. Technically, she's still president until they officially dissolve the board. Miguel groaned. You mean the HOA is paying her to defend herself for scamming the HOA? Exactly, Rosemary said. And the worst part, the judge granted her bail. When I stood up so fast, my chair scraped the floor. You're telling me she's getting out. She'll be under supervision, but yes. She'll be back at the marina until the next hearing. My hands clenched into fists. She's going to come after me again. Rosemary's eyes narrowed. Then we'll make sure the next time she steps out of line, she's the one walking into our trap. When Karen returned, she didn't come quietly. She arrived like she was starring in her own redemption movie, red blazer, pressed sunglasses, gleaming chin high. Behind her, a camera crew from a local station filmed every step. Harborview's own HOA president returns after false allegations, the headline read later that night. She was already rewriting the story. Karen called it a smear campaign. Claimed she was framed by an angry property flipper with a vendetta. Even managed to convince a few of her loyal board members, Patricia Parker and Gavin Miller, to appear beside her in a staged press conference on the dock. Watching it made me want to throw my TV off the wall. But Rosemary had a plan. We'll let her dig her own grave, she said. The Attorney General's office wants one more piece of evidence, something public, undeniable, recorded. Agent Martinez agreed. We want her on record admitting to her role in the financial cover-up. There's a gala planned next week, the Marina Renewal Celebration. She's hosting it under the guise of restoring community trust. We'll be there undercover. Your job, Paul, is to keep her talking. Talking, I said. She'll throw me out before I get a word in. Then you'll just have to make yourself impossible to ignore, Rosemary said, smiling faintly. The night of the gala, the marina looked almost unrecognizable. String lights draped from mast-to-mast tables lined with hors d'oeuvres, and the same HOA crowd that had once called me a predator now mingled in cocktail attire. Karen stood at the center like a queen reclaiming her throne. Tonight, she declared into the microphone, we celebrate unity, transparency, and community spirit. I walked in right on cue wearing a crisp suit and holding a single folder. Heads turned. Conversations froze. Karen's smile faltered. Paul Moore, she said slowly. I wasn't aware you were invited. I wasn't, I said. But seeing as you're talking about transparency, I figured you wouldn't mind a little truth joining the party. The room buzzed. Cameras turned. Karen's tone tightened. This event is for HOA members only. I smiled. Good thing I own a yacht in your marina. A few quiet laughs rippled through the crowd. Karen's jaw clenched. Agent Martinez watched from the back disguised as a journalist, while Rosemary pretended to mingle near the bar. Miguel stood by the exit recording everything. Karen straightened her jacket and leaned toward the mic. Mr. Moore, your personal issues have no place here. We're here to rebuild trust, not spread more of your lies. Lies, I said, raising the folder? Then maybe you can explain these. I laid out copies of the HOA's financial records, the ones showing payments to Harbor Living Group LLC. Companies registered in Belize, right, under your name. The same company that's been receiving transfers from HOA maintenance funds. Karen forced a laugh. That's ridiculous. Really, I flipped another page. Because here's a signed invoice you submitted under HOA letterhead to your own company. That's embezzlement, Karen. She stepped closer, eyes blazing. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I think I do. I lowered my voice. You used Harold Brennan's death to steal a yacht. You forged his insurance documents. You even took money from the HOA's reserve fund to cover the taxes on his policy payout. How am I doing so far? The crowd murmured. Karen's mask cracked for the first time. Her lips trembled before curling back in anger. That old man owed me. He promised me that boat. I took care of him when no one else would. The words echoed through the speakers. Every camera turned toward her, and that was the exact moment Martinez gave the signal. Two men in suits stepped forward, badges out. Karen Clark, one announced, you are under arrest for embezzlement, fraud, and obstruction of justice. The crowd gasped. Some backed away, others whispered. Karen's husband Tom stood frozen near the buffet table, face pale. Karen tried to compose herself. You can't do this here. I'm innocent. Martinez approached calmly. You just confessed on camera, ma'am. Her eyes darted wildly. That doesn't count. You tricked me. You all tricked me. As the agents cuffed her hands, she kicked at the chair and shouted, This is harassment. You'll regret this more. I just stood there, arms crossed. You've said that before, Karen. Every time it turns out, I'm fine. The event dissolved into chaos. News crews swarmed the dock, broadcasting everything live. The HOA members who once worshipped Karen now looked at me like they'd seen a ghost. Patricia Parker slipped away quietly, clutching her purse. Gavin Miller tried to sneak out the side door until a uniformed officer intercepted him. By midnight, the entire HOA board was under federal custody. The next morning, headlines exploded. HOA president arrested again. FBI uncovers decade-long fraud ring. Elder abuse, embezzlement, and HOA corruption. Linked to Karen Clark. Local homeowner exposes criminal HOA empire. For once, my name wasn't being dragged through the mud, it was being cleared. 2 days later, the Meridian, now Liberty Tide, was officially released from evidence. I stepped aboard, feeling the deck under my boots again, for the first time as its rightful owner. The interior still smelled faintly of the lavender cleaner Karen used, but now it felt peaceful, like the storm had finally passed. Miguel whistled, admiring the sunrise over the water. She's yours again, man. What's the first thing you're gonna do? I smiled, running my hand along the polished railing. Finish what I started. Fix her up. Sail out past the horizon. Rosemary climbed aboard, holding a folder of legal papers. It's official, she said. The HOA's dissolved. State oversight will manage the docks now. You're free. Free, I repeated softly. The word tasted good. As we untied the ropes, the yacht drifted gently from the dock, her bow cutting through the glowing morning mist. I felt the engine rumble to life beneath my feet, steady and sure. In the distance, Karen's voice no longer echoed through the marina. Just the sound of gulls, wind, and the water, finally my water. For the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, peace. I looked at Miguel and Rosemary and grinned. Next stop, open ocean. The sun climbed higher, painting the waves gold. Behind me, the dock grew smaller until it vanished entirely. And for the first time since buying the Meridian, I didn't look back. The morning after Karen Clark's second arrest, the marina was eerily calm. For months it had been a battlefield, a parade of shouting neighbors, HOA banners, police tape, and gossip cameras. Now, it was just the sound of the waves slapping against the docks and the distant cry of seagulls. I sat on the stern of Liberty Tide, coffee in hand, trying to process the silence. For the first time in over a year, no one was threatening to fine me, sue me, or temporarily confiscate my property. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something unfinished lingered beneath the surface like the calm before one last storm. Miguel joined me, a donut in his mouth, and that same smirk that had carried us through hell. "So, how does it feel?" he asked. "To officially be the most hated man in Harborview?" I laughed. "If they hate me, it means I won." "Fair point," he said, "though I think they hate Karen more now." Over the next few weeks, the investigation exploded. The FBI, the IRS, and the Coast Guard worked together to uncover the full extent of what Karen and her HOA crew had been running. It wasn't just small-town corruption, it was an entire network of fraud. They found forged invoices, fake maintenance companies, and a secret fund labeled Community Reserve B. The B apparently stood for Belize, the offshore account where millions in HOA funds had vanished over the past decade. Every time the agents opened a new folder, another name fell. Patricia Parker, the HOA secretary, admitted she signed blank checks for Karen in exchange for loan forgiveness. Gavin Miller, the treasurer, confessed he'd laundered HOA money through shell donations to his cousin's construction firm. Even Tom Clark, Karen's husband, turned on her, cutting a plea deal for reduced sentencing in exchange for testifying against his wife. The irony was perfect. The HOA that once fined me for improper deck lighting was now facing federal racketeering charges. Still, Karen refused to break. Even from jail, she filed handwritten motions, dozens of them, claiming she was the victim of a male-led smear campaign orchestrated by vindictive dock owners and corrupt federal officers. At one point, she even sent me a letter. "Paul, I know you think you've won, but people like me don't lose, we rebuild. The HOA was my legacy and you destroyed it. One day you'll see the cost of crossing me." No signature, just a lipstick kiss mark at the bottom. Rosemary told me to throw it away. Miguel told me to frame it. I did neither. I burned it. Meanwhile, the town changed overnight. The new State Marina Oversight Board took over operations, hiring professional management instead of HOA volunteers. The absurd rules: no loud laughter after 9 p.m., no fishing without HOA consent, no boats painted in unapproved colors were gone. The people who'd once glared at me now nodded respectfully. Some even apologized. "Didn't realize how deep it went," one man told me. "Karen had everyone fooled." Another laughed awkwardly. "You were right, man. She really was crazy. I didn't say I told you so. I just smiled and got back to work sanding the deck." Vindication's nice, but it doesn't varnish wood. One afternoon, as I was scrubbing rust from the railing, Agent Martinez stopped by. "She's not taking it well," he said. "Karen, yeah. She's in solitary right now. Tried to start a fight with a federal marshal after they denied her phone privileges." I couldn't help but smirk. "Guess she finally met an HOA she couldn't control." Martinez chuckled. "You'd be surprised how many of these cases start small. A few fines, a little power trip, then boom, full-on financial crime syndicate." He handed me a copy of the final report. "Thought you'd want to see this. Cases officially closed. You're free and clear." I flipped through the summary. Charges: fraud, forgery, embezzlement, elder financial abuse, mail fraud, tax evasion, witness, intimidation, sentence life, in federal prison without parole. Tom Clark, 15 years. Gavin Miller and Patricia Parker, 7 each. Karen's empire gone. The night the verdict aired, the whole town gathered at the marina. Someone set up a projector on the dock, and we watched the news report together. The anchor's voice carried over the waves. Former HOA president Karen Clark has been sentenced to life in prison for orchestrating a multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. Investigators credit local resident Paul Moore for uncovering the operation that led to her arrest. People clapped. Some even cheered. I didn't smile. I just watched the footage of Karen being led away in handcuffs, her once perfect hair a mess, her expression a mix of fury and disbelief. She still looked like she believed she was the victim, like the world had wronged her. Miguel leaned over and whispered, "You think she'll ever admit it, Karen?" I said. "She'll probably start an HOA in prison." In the weeks that followed, Liberty Tide became something of a local legend. Tourists came by asking to take pictures. The story spread online, the man who took down his HOA, and suddenly I was getting emails from people across the country. "Paul, I'm dealing with a nightmare HOA too. Can you share how you beat them legally? Please start a YouTube channel. You'd be a hero." I didn't want fame. I wanted quiet. So I did what I'd planned from the start. I finished restoring the yacht, polished her brass fittings, and reinstalled the twin diesel engines Harold Brennan had loved so much. Then, one morning before sunrise, I set out to sea. The water was glassy, the sky painted in orange and violet. I scattered my father's ashes into the wind, the same promise I'd once made before Karen Clark turned my life into chaos. Miguel stood at the bow, arms wide, shouting into the breeze. "Freedom, baby." Finally, Rosemary laughed from the cabin doorway. "You two look like you're auditioning for a cologne commercial." "Maybe I am," I said. "Smells like victory." She rolled her eyes, but she smiled that quiet, genuine smile that said she was proud of how far we'd come. As Liberty Tide glided across the waves, I felt something lift off me. Months of tension, anger, sleepless nights, all washed away by the salt and Sunday. For the first time, the world didn't feel small anymore. Later that evening, as we anchored near the cove, Miguel handed me an envelope. "Mail came before we left," he said. "Thought you should see this one." The postmark read Federal Correctional Institution, Tallahassee. Inside was a short note, scrawled in looping, angry handwriting. "You might have my HOA, Paul, but you'll never have peace. Every tide turns eventually. No signature, but I didn't need one." Rosemary frowned. "She'll rot in prison, Paul. Let her go." I tossed the letter into the galley stove. The paper curled, blackened, and turned to ash. "All ready," I said quietly. That night, I sat alone on deck, watching the reflection of the stars on the water. The ocean was calm again, and for the first time in years, so was I. I thought about Harold Brennan, the man whose death had started this entire storm, and whispered, "Your yacht's safe now, Captain. She's home." The engine hummed softly beneath me, a low, steady heartbeat that felt like closure. Maybe Karen was right about one thing: every tide turns. But this time, it turned my way. The ocean has a strange way of erasing sound. Out there, miles from the coast, the world becomes a whisper, just the steady breath of wind, the hum of engines, and the water folding itself against the hull. For months, my life had been full of shouting: lawyers, cops, HOA, tyrants, news anchors. Now there was only silence, the kind that fills your chest instead of your head. Liberty Tide moved like she'd been waiting years for this freedom. The sunset burned across her bow in streaks of orange and copper, and as the horizon swallowed the sun, the world went gold. I leaned on the rail, the urn in my hands heavier than it should have been. "Ready?" Rosemary asked quietly beside me. I nodded. Together we tilted the urn, and the ashes of my father scattered into the sea, carried away on the same winds that had once brought him home from his Navy tours. "Goodbye, Dad," I whispered. "Took me a while to get here, but I made it." Miguel stood a few feet away, trying not to sniffle. "Man," he said, "I didn't sign up for emotional sailing." Rosemary laughed softly. "He'd be proud of you," maybe I said, "or he'd tell me I overpaid for the yacht." The three of us stood in quiet for a while, watching the ashes fade into the water until nothing remained but sunlight. It had been 4 months since Karen Clark's sentencing, and life had finally settled into something resembling normal. Liberty Tide was officially registered under my name again, and the marina was now managed by a neutral state agency. No more HOA board, no more arbitrary fines. The docks were calmer, cleaner, friendlier. People said hello again. Families came to fish without worrying about noise violations. The air smelled like salt and grilled shrimp instead of ego and paperwork. And as for Karen, she'd been moved to a federal facility in Florida, where, according to the latest report, she was adjusting poorly. She'd filed 5 appeals, all denied. But even behind bars, she was trying to run things. Rumor had it she'd organized her cell block into a community committee that fined inmates for messy bunks. Some people never changed. When we docked, a week later, the marina looked alive again. Kids chased gulls on the boardwalk, and a local band played at the new cafe that had replaced the old HOA office. Above the door, a hand-painted sign read Brennan's Dock Cafe in memory of Captain Harold. I smiled. The owner, an older man named Fletcher Brennan, Harold's nephew, had reopened the place after inheriting part of his uncle's estate. We'd worked together with the Attorney General's office to create the Harold Brennan Foundation, a fund that protected seniors from property and HOA scams. Fletcher waved when he saw me. "Morning, Captain Moore. You heading out again soon?" "Thinking about it," I said. "Might take a few veterans for a day sail this weekend." He nodded approvingly. Harold would have liked that. Man loved the sea more than people. "Yeah," I said, smiling. "Can't blame him." Over the following weeks, word of Liberty Tide spread beyond our little marina. Local veterans groups started calling, asking if we could host day trips for older sailors. Then came an email from the Coast Guard Auxiliary offering to collaborate on a safety outreach program. Before long, what started as my personal escape became something bigger, a small fleet of volunteers, sailors, and retired servicemen running Sailing for Seniors, named after Harold Brennan's old logbook. Miguel became the unofficial mechanic/DJ blasting classic rock while tuning engines. Rosemary handled the nonprofit paperwork, ensuring no HOA-style bureaucracy ever infected our mission. And me, I just kept the helm steady, making sure no one ever took away what we'd built again. One afternoon, as we prepared for another group sale, a marina staffer handed me a letter. The envelope was thin, the paper lined and wrinkled. The return address made my stomach tighten: Federal Correctional Institution, Tallahassee. I knew before I opened it who it was from. The handwriting was unmistakable, bold, dramatic, cursive, like it belonged on a threat or a lawsuit. Paul Moore, they tell me you're some kind of hero now, the man who saved the marina. But I know the truth. You're just another man who couldn't stand a woman in charge. You destroyed everything I built because it made you feel small. But the world forgets fast, Paul. The tides turn. Someday someone worse than me will come along and you'll wish you still had me to fight. KC. I folded it once, then twice, and fed it into the dockside trash can without a word. When Miguel saw the look on my face, he asked Karen, "Yeah, she still thinks she's the victim. She'll die thinking that." He grinned. Guess some people never get seasick from their own ego. That evening, the three of us took Liberty Tide out again. No passengers this time, just us. The water was calm, the air soft, with the smell of salt and rain. As we cruised past the old dock, the one where Karen had screamed her last threats, I saw the faint reflection of the marina lights ripple across the waves. The dock was rebuilt now, stronger than before. A metal plaque hung at the end in memory of the Harbor View incident. May truth always outweigh authority. I felt something shift in my chest. Closure, maybe. Or peace. Rosemary leaned beside me at the rail. "You ever think about selling it? The yacht, I mean?" I shook my head. Not a chance. Too many ghosts would be homeless. She smiled. "Good. Because it suits you." Later, after dropping anchor offshore, Miguel played his usual mix of Fleetwood Mac and 70 Seconds blues. The sky melted into indigo, and the stars began to pepper the horizon. "This," he said, "raising a beer is what victory tastes like." I raised mine. "To Harold Brennan, the man who accidentally started a revolution," Rosemary added. "And to Paul Moore, the man who finished it," I chuckled. "Don't make me sound like some hero. I just wanted to fix a boat." "Yeah," Miguel said. "And you ended up fixing a whole damn town." When the laughter faded and the sea took over again, I thought about everything that had happened, about power greed and how far people like Karen would go to protect their illusion of control. HOAs were supposed to preserve order, but in the wrong hands they became something else, a weapon. And for too long, good people, quiet people had been too afraid to fight back. If my story proved anything, it's that the loudest person in the room isn't always the one who's right. Sometimes it's the one quietly taking notes, the one who knows that the law, patience, and persistence are louder than any megaphone. As dawn broke over the horizon, I stood alone at the bow, the sunlight spilling across the deck. For the first time in years, there was no anger left in me, only gratitude. I looked back toward the marina one last time, then forward to the open sea. "Let's go home," I whispered, to no one in particular. The engines rumbled to life. The sails caught the wind. Liberty Tide turned toward the horizon and cut through the morning light, free, clean, unstoppable. If this story taught me anything, it's that power only corrupts when no one challenges it. Karen Clark's HOA ruled through fear, through letters, fines, and intimidation, and for years everyone let her. People convinced themselves it wasn't worth the trouble to fight back. But the truth is, injustice doesn't vanish because you ignore it. It just grows quieter, stronger, and more entitled. When I first bought that yacht, I thought I was just fixing wood and metal. I didn't realize I'd end up fixing a system. What started as a personal fight became a reminder that one person standing their ground can change the tide for everyone around them. So if someone ever tells you that's just the way it is, remember, rules don't define fairness, people do. Don't let the Karens of the world write your story for you. Stand firm, stay calm, fight smart. And when the time comes, take the wheel, because sometimes the only way to win is to sail your own course.